Poor hygiene plays a bigger percentage in bringing infections to your farm. Actually, it is said that 80% of the infections that happen in your farm are due to poor hygiene. My name is Grace Boji from Boji Farms. Are you new to our channel? Do not forget to subscribe, and also do not forget to click on that notification bell to notify you wherever our videos are loading. Hope you enjoy our videos. Our topic of discussion today, poor hygiene, is a key factor in bringing infections to our farms. Poor hygiene contributes at least 80% of the infections we have on our farms. Are you aware that because of the poor hygiene, it gives room for the bacteria, the viruses to thrive on our farms? Usually on our farms, when we have lots and lots of diarrhea, have you ever noticed in certain seasons on your farm, there is lots and lots of diarrhea? But here have you attributed the diarrhea in your goats, especially the babies, have you attributed it to the poor hygiene on your farms? Have you? Actually, here is how it happens. Usually, when the mothers are sleeping in a dirty environment, or if the mothers are sleeping in a dirty corral, and these nipples, the udder plus the nipples, touch the dirty ground, and the babies end up suckling on these nipples. What usually happens? The nipples are laden with dirt. This dirt has lots and lots of bacteria. So your baby is sucking on the nipple, which is dirty. The next 1 or 2 days, you see your babies are having lots and lots of diarrhea because they took in directly the chaff from the corral because you didn't take time to clean your corral. Still, on poor hygiene, it leads to contamination of feeds. It leads to contamination of water. It leads to contamination of almost everything on the farm. And remember, when these feeds are contaminated, the goats will not like it because it usually has a full smell. And also, every time our goats feed on contaminated feeds, one of the key things to look at is poor hygiene can lead to contamination of your feeds. Poor hygiene can lead to contamination of your water sources. Every time there is contamination in these kind of aspects I've talked about, you are creating a hub for infections in your goats. For example, let's talk about the feeds. If the feeds are poorly stored, for example, you have maize bran in your store, you have hay in your store, and you store it poorly, what happens? Some of those goats, when they eat on that poorly stored feed, they will get an infection like Liosis. I don't know if you have heard about it. Some of them will get bloat. So you are a danger to your goats unknowingly because of the poor hygiene on how you handle your matters on the farm. One point to note is that when it finds a season where the immune system of your goats is compromised, and then coupled with the poor hygiene on that farm, your goats will die there and then, because remember, they are having to fight with two intruders. One, they are fighting with poor immune system. Introduced you to the fact that 80% of the infections that happen in our farms are due to poor hygiene. You as a farmer, what are you going to do about it? Or what are you already doing about it? This is what we do at our particular farms. Most of these videos, most of the information I share, I only share things we are already practicing on our farms, and they have really worked for us. So one of the things we do on our farms, we regularly sweep our goat houses. Farmers, temukubawo njawulo, temukubawo chi. I've even had a scenario where I sacked somebody's son because he mentioned that for him, he only came to keep goats and he didn't know that there was an aspect of sweeping a goat pen. How do you keep clean goats? How do you keep healthy goats without sweeping the goat pen? On a weekly basis, ensure that you sweep your goat pen 2 to 3 times. And this applies to people who are having more than 50 animals on their farms. If you have fewer animals on the farm, for example, 50 and below, you can do it once a week because the manure is not too much. But if there are more than 50, please make it a point to sweep the goat pen at least 2 to 3 times. It is one of the most dreaded activities among our workers. So what we usually do, some days when I see it is really too much, for example, in our exotic herds, we usually have lots and lots of manure. Get particular days when we are to sweep in those exotic herds. And the people who are to sweep there, because the manure is always a lot, so what we usually do, we always give incentives to the people who are going to sweep in the exotic herds because the manure is really a lot. And remember, hygiene is key in this aspect of our. One aspect that we should consider if we are going to keep proper hygiene on our farms is to regularly disinfect our goat pens. The people into poultry farming understand this aspect really well. They always ensure that they disinfect on a weekly basis. If the people in poultry farming can do it, even us goat farmers, we can embrace this aspect. What do we use to disinfect our goat pens? There are so many disinfectants on the market. I, for one, have used aspects like Virukil, it is already on the market. I've used the jig. You can always dilute it. And at least 2 times or once a week, spray in all the crevices of your goat pens and also the corrals. Spray everywhere. Here, when you spray, you are reducing the bacteria and the virus burden in your goats, especially if you kill them on a weekly basis. We are still discussing how poor hygiene leads to 80% of infections on our farms, and also how we can properly keep our farms clean so that we can deter away the infections that affect our goats. Another aspect to look at here is dead animals on our farms. This is where we get it wrong as farmers. I didn't know that most farms, when an animal dies, especially an animal has been has died because of, or maybe they are not even aware of the infection as to why it has died. How do we dispose of our dead animals? Some of the mistakes, the grave mistakes I've seen on most farms, farmers don't, you don't allow to bury the goats. You don't disinfect the goats after they have died so that you bury them so they cannot transfer the infections to other goats. And usually what happens in most farms, workers are seeing meat. What you forget that some of these infections that affect the goats can also be transferred to human beings.